Oh, hello once again, everyone. Original Blood Ace here. And look at this story. Just happened a few hours ago. Sony is sued by a gamer because Killzone Shadowfall fails to meet the 1080p graphics that Sony claimed it did for the multiplayer mode. The gamer is seeking more than $5 million for allegedly because consumers were misled by Sony. Oh, a class action lawsuit has been filed against Sony Computer Entertainment America, alleging consumers were misled by the company's claims that the PS4 exclusive Killzone Shadowfall features 1080p graphics, even though it should say resolution, in its multiplayer mode, which came into question earlier this year. The suit filed by a gamer by the name of Douglas Lador in the U.S. District Court in California yesterday claims that gamers quickly noticed and complained that Killzone's multiplayer graphics were blurry to the point of distraction. This is despite Sony have claimed the game would offer 1080p multiplayer graphics, a crowning achievement in the video game industry. Well, PC can do 4000, or 4K, so that's not really true. Maybe in the console market. But anyway, and having even featured the 1080p figure on the game's box. Now, before we continue the rest of this, I could have sworn that it said that it was common sense that the single player was, single player was 720p 30 frames per second, and the multiplayer was 1080p supposedly 60 frames per second, I think, or maybe they were both 60 frames per second. I can't remember, but either way, I remember one of them wasn't 1080p. Either way, Lador is seeking to prevent Sony from continuing to advertise the game as being 1080p, and is looking for damages to the tune of more than $5 million. Now, I know some people who see this video, they're going to say, oh, if this happened to Nintendo, you'd be bitching and saying, like, oh, it's unfair to sue Nintendo. Nintendo's always being sued and always picked on. However, even though Nintendo has, fucked up, for lack of a better word, in the resolution department, for example, Mario Kart 8 was supposed to be 1080p. However, it was clarified before release to only be 720p, and on the box it says 720p. So, while Nintendo has fluffed up, or fucked up, about that type of thing before, they have never actually finally put a game out and labeled it as 1080p or something that has not actually been 1080p. So, when it's someone in the wrong like Sony who actually claimed something that wasn't true, then we have an issue, and that is something I will jump on. So a Digital Foundry report earlier this year revealed that the game uses technical trickery, a technique called temporal reprojection, to achieve its resolution, so it fools the eye, basically. The lawsuit says this is meant to provide subjectively similar results to full 1080p, but that just isn't the same. So basically what Sony tried to pass off as 1080p, was in fact just a little bit of a trick, a little bit of a program, or I don't know if you'd consider it programming, but a little bit of a development trick to cause similar results to 1080p, but not native 1080p. So, that's quite funny. Every time a developer does something like this, they will always get caught on it by somewhere, or by someone. Now, does Sony deserve to be sued $5 million? Probably not, but honestly, I hope the gamer wins just because it's fucking hilarious. And if this guy does win, which there was something like this before where a gamer was suing a developer over some kind of resolution issue or whatever. But if Sony loses this to this gamer guy, $5 million to him, or even over a little bit of $5 million, that's a huge dent. And remember, the PS4 is the only thing making money for Sony right now. So a $5 million lawsuit, that's a dent, a fucking huge ass dent in Sony's recovery here. Now, in no way, shape, or form is Sony recovered enough and out of the woods and out of the weeds and, oh, they're safe now, they're perfectly fine, they're not doomed or anything. No, they still are in huge financial issues. Yes, the PS4 has been barely keeping the very tip, the very nose of Sony above water from drowning, but if the PS4 can't, compensate for a potential $5 million loss, then Sony's right back to being with no money, or at least very, very little money. So this could be a huge issue, and shame on Sony, though. Don't think I'm, not going to call them out for this. Sony, you would have avoided this if you just labeled the game, I'm not sure what the actual resolution would be if it wasn't actually 1080p. I don't know if it would actually be considered 720, and then they use the trickery to make it like an illusion like that, or if it was like 900p or something like that. Who knows? But Sony could have prevented this just by being honest, telling the truth, which is something a lot of developers in this industry don't do anymore. Why? I don't know. They think that there's not any intelligent gamers out there anymore, which is fucking false. Not that I want to, toot my own horn here, but even I could see this. I'm not surprised. We've seen this type of thing over and over again. And then it's especially with the, with the people saying the Wii U and the graphics on the Wii U, blah blah blah. It's well, let's see you get a 1080p game up. Exactly. Is there anything else here? Saying people were misled because of the dozens of reports, blah blah blah, about Killzone's next generation multiplayer graphics. And the thing about the multiplayer is, compared to the single player, which is a huge fucking city, with multiplayer you got smaller maps, so there really shouldn't have been much of an issue for getting 1080p. Now, I'll give Sony the benefit of the doubt that, early on launch games aren't going to be at the best a system can get, which the best the PS4 can get is 1080p and 60 frames per second, which it will get there, later in the life cycle, and all the games, much like the Wii U, much like the Xbox One, will get there. So, in a sense, that is a defense to Sony. But, again, Sony shouldn't have lied. Anyway, where are we here? Anything else? Over 2 million people purchased the game. The complaint states, unfortunately, Sony's marketing and on-box representations turned out to be nothing more than fiction. Oh, now I got the hiccups. Great. Complaints about blurry multiplayer graphics. Blah, blah, blah. 960 by 1080 frame rate to buffer. So it is 60 frames per second multiplayer. So I think it was advertised to be 1080p 60 frames per second multiplayer and 720p 60 frames per second single player or campaign. But tisk tisk. So developer Guerrilla Games said in response that it would be more precise about its language in the future, so they won't lie. But because things like the box haven't been modified to remove what the lawsuit calls an unqualified 1080p listing, millions of consumers have been tricked into paying full price for a video game that doesn't deliver what is promised. Which you got to be careful. That's one thing, is when you have a product, you really got to be careful and list exactly what they're getting. The complaint goes to describe the console war between Sony and Microsoft, claiming Shadowfall's success was imperative to Sony and the ultimate success of the PS4, which I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Killzone Shadowfall was, I had no interest in it. If I had a PS4 back when it came out, I wouldn't get it. Like I said, I think I even did a video on it long before, but to me, Killzone Shadowfall looked very similar to Killzone on the PS3, the last Killzone game. And graphically, I mean. So, I don't know. I don't agree that it was imperative to the success of the PS4. Because, as you can see, it's strictly hype that showed the success of the PS4. Lador, who bought the game in May at Best Buy, claims in what might be the most ridiculous part of this lawsuit, that he examined the Killzone retail packaging and confirmed that Killzone would deliver an unrestricted 1080p graphics resolution before making his purchase. He had known the full story. He allegedly would have not purchased Killzone at all, or have paid substantially less for it. The lawsuit, even for some notes, relying on those reports, plaintiff chose to purchase the Killzone video game using Best Buy's free store pickup service. Thus, plaintiff reserved a copy of Killzone on Best Buy's website and traveled to a local Best Buy store to complete his purchase. When contacted for comment, Sony declined. Well, big surprise there, they were caught in a lie. They're probably going to end up trying to figure out some kind of line to try and get out of it. Sony's declined, citing its policy of not addressing pending litigation. So there you have it. Quite the story. It'll probably take a while before we actually find out what the result of this is. Whether Sony wins, whether Sony loses. I'm not actually 100% sure on how Sony's track record is with lawsuits. When you look at Nintendo's, 99% of the time Nintendo wins their lawsuit. So I'm not really sure how many times Sony's been sued and how many times they've won and lost. But at the same time, I figure if they've been sued a lot, or at least, a fair amount, obviously I'm guessing they didn't win very many because of their low finances. But then again, at the same time, maybe they did win and then they just blew all that money. So, who knows? Either way, that's going to do it for this video. This is hilarious. I mean, not for Sony, it's terrible for them, but I got a chuckle out of it. Everyone knows I'm a Sony hater, even though I'm getting a fucking PS4 just for fucking Destiny. But, so they'll get a little bit of my money. But, that won't be enough, Sony. My $400 or whatever will not help you bail out you from $5 million. Anyway, I'm Original Blood Ace. As always, stay tuned. More videos coming soon. As always.